in this world that exists like that, don't be a Stephen A. Smith. Be an Admiral Halsey.
You recently accused Senator Mark Kelly, a veteran, an astronaut, of crossing the line for participating in a video reminding troops that they can refuse to follow illegal orders.
Okay.
Let's see some of what you said, my friend.
Sure. When DL Hughley called out Stephen A. Smith, he didn't just clap back. He exposed how fast confidence crumbles when it's not backed by logic. Stephen A. went on The View to talk politics, but instead he walked straight into a PR disaster he created himself.
You know better, Senator Kelly. You know better. How dare you do that? You could go to the House. You can draw up paperwork. You can try to start articles of impeachment if you think there's something illegal. I mean, damn, it ain't like y'all haven't done it before. You impeached the man twice. Where'd that get you? Got us behind back in the White House. Had you left him alone since 2020, maybe he wouldn't be back. You don't tell military men and women to ignore an order from the commander-in-chief. You don't do that.
He tried to sound like a political heavyweight, but DL Hughley showed the world how shaky Stephen A.'s whole political act really is. This wasn't just a disagreement. DL Hughley delivered a full-on public breakdown of Stephen A.'s political credibility for everyone watching. Stephen A. went on The View to explain his comments about Senator Mark Kelly. Comments where he basically suggested a decorated Navy pilot encouraged troops to defy the president. He had multiple chances to correct himself, show clarity, or admit he misunderstood something, but Stephen A. doubled down every single time. He got louder, more defensive, and proved exactly what DL Hughley said. He's loud, he's wrong, and he thinks yelling is leadership. DL Hughley didn't hold anything back, and today we're getting into exactly why his words hit so hard. His breakdown wasn't just sharp, it exposed the real problem behind Stephen A.'s push for political relevance. Let's get into what actually happened on The View, because Stephen A. didn't just defend his position, he revealed his biggest insecurity on live television. Sunny Hostin gave him a clean chance to pivot when she reminded him that Pete Hegseth, the current Secretary of Defense, said the same thing Senator Kelly said back in 2016. He literally said troops won't follow unlawful orders, the exact principle Kelly referenced. Sunny asked Stephen one simple question. With the Secretary of Defense on record saying the same thing, did he want to adjust his position? Stephen A. shot back. I'm not changing a thing, I didn't stutter once. He refused to reconsider anything.
Caffeine's a bitch, you know?
Now let me just remind you that Pete Hegseth said in 2016, I do think there have to be consequences for abject war crimes. If you're doing something that is just completely unlawful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander-in-chief. Okay. Now, given the fact that the secretary himself said that, I'd love to give you the opportunity to perhaps change your position on what you said.
I'm not changing a thing.
Okay.
I didn't stutter when I said it.
You want to stay loud and wrong?
Well, you could call it loud and wrong all you want to. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine.
Okay.
Here's the reality of the situation. First of all, I don't give a damn what Pete Hegseth has to say because I will tell you right now, he was never qualified for the job.
And you are.
When you talk about DEI and eradicating that, excuse me, what was he doing hosting Fox News on the weekend and all of a sudden he's the defense secretary?
Right.
Please, give me a break. I don't care what he has to say.
That's right.
We get that out the way. As it pertains to Mark Kelly, what I was talking about is military. What I did was get on the phone with family and friends who have served in the military. And I said, we're not civilians. This is not the court of law. You can be implicated for implying something if you are a former military member or you are a present military member. It wasn't what Mark Kelly said. It's the fact that he was a combat Navy pilot who served in the military who would tell folks, ignore an order when it could get
Ignore
them
an
in
illegal
the
order.
world.
He did not say
I said
ignore.
illegal.
What he
I said illegal. I'm talking about illegal. I understand that.
He said you don't have to follow an unlawful order, and that is in the military code of conduct.
And I'm saying to you, hold on, which I'm aware of.
But it didn't sound like you were aware of that.
He's aware of that. He's aware of that. Yeah.
No. I disagree with you.
Stephen, can I ask you a question?
I had two governors, by the way, text me to tell me I was wrong, and they agree with you.
You are wrong.
I had two senators that reached out to me and said, you weren't wrong at all.
Well, Mikey Sherrill did say that the reason they felt the need to put that out is they were constantly being approached by people in the military saying, we're being put in really uncomfortable situations.
But
that to me is a little more relatable when you're a veteran yourself
But I'm saying let me say this real quick.
You gotta do it real quick. Or wait till we come back.
All I'm saying is this. If you're a member of the military, I'm looking at the soldiers as saying, don't get yourself in trouble. Let somebody else do it. Don't you do it because it ain't gonna work for you.
Instead, he got louder, insisted he contacted military relatives, and tried to explain why a Navy combat pilot shouldn't say something that's already written in military code. Then came the moment that really told on him. Stephen A. said, "I don't give a damn what Pete Hegseth has to say because he was never qualified for the job." He mocked Hegseth for hosting Fox News before becoming Secretary of Defense. Think about that. Stephen A., a sports commentator, questioned someone else's qualifications because they were a TV host first. The irony was so heavy the whole room felt it. DL Hughley saw all of this instantly. He didn't just criticize Stephen A.'s take, he broke down why Stephen A. keeps fumbling in politics. He pointed out how Stephen A. wants to be accepted as a political voice, but instead of building credibility, he attacks the credentials of others while lacking them himself. That's a major problem when you're trying to step into a world full of people who actually spent decades serving the country. But the sharpest part of DL Hughley's breakdown came when he compared Stephen A. to Admiral Alvin Halsey, a 4-star admiral with 37 years of service who resigned rather than follow an order he believed was unlawful. That's real leadership, real sacrifice, and real principle. When you put that next to Stephen A. yelling on TV, the contrast is brutal. DL Hughley didn't just point out hypocrisy. He showed how Stephen A. tries to debate military issues without the grounding or experience to do it. That's why Stephen A. reacted so defensively. He wasn't protecting his argument, he was protecting his pride. Here's what's really going on. Politics isn't Stephen A.'s zone. He built his career analyzing sports where debates are emotional, loud, and entertainment-driven. But politics requires accuracy, discipline, and calm decision-making.
There are some guys at Leavenworth who made really bad choices on the battlefield. And I do think there have to be consequences for abject war crimes. If you're doing something that is just completely unlawful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander-in-chief. There's a standard, there's an ethos, there's a belief that we are above what so many things that our enemies or others would do.
And that's where his approach falls apart. He brings sports show energy to conversations that require military, legal, and historical understanding, and it shows every time he gets pressed. He wants to be seen as a serious political figure, but he hasn't built the foundation to stand on that stage. That's why he lashes out, doubles down, and tries to overpower people with volume. He's trying to cover the fact that he doesn't have the same depth as the people he's talking about. And that's exactly why DL Hughley's takedown hit so hard. It exposed Stephen A.'s biggest political weakness in real time.
Because he believes, obviously, that being loud and wrong is leadership. But being loud and wrong is the sole province of old white dudes. They're the only ones who are going to get to be loud and wrong.
And then he delivered the knockout punch.
What the ironic thing is Stephen A. Smith is a broadcaster who thinks he can be president.
When you feel shaky about something, when you know deep down you're out of your lane, you get defensive. And that's exactly what Stephen A. did on The View. If someone challenged his take on LeBron or the Cowboys, he'd crack a joke and move on. But Sonny Hostin pressed him about his Mark Kelly comments, and suddenly he flipped the switch. The second she challenged him, Stephen A. got loud, cut people off, and started over-explaining like he was trying to convince himself he was right.
It's a tale of two black men. One who believes that being loud and wrong is leadership, Stephen A. Smith, and one is Admiral Alvin Halsey. Don't be a Stephen A. Smith. Be an Admiral Halsey.
That's not confidence. That's insecurity dressed up as volume. And Stephen A. knows people with real military experience think he missed the mark on this one. Go search Stephen A. Smith politics and you'll see it for yourself. Most people are saying he's talking outside his knowledge. And here's the wild part. The shows inviting him on, whether it's PBD, Sean Hannity, or Cuomo's News Nation, aren't bringing him on because they think he's some political expert. They know he'll create a scene, and scenes bring views. They're entertained watching him fight through topics he doesn't fully understand. But Stephen A. thinks this means he's gaining political status. He thinks he's getting a real seat at a table he hasn't earned yet. And that confusion, that gap between how he sees himself and how these platforms see him, is exactly what DL Hughley exposed. Now let's be real. Stephen A. is chasing political relevance, and that chase is costing him credibility fast. Why else hold on to an argument that's clearly off? Why double down when given clean chances to correct himself? Because admitting he was wrong would force him to admit politics isn't his strong suit, and his ego won't let him say that out loud. The bigger question is this: what does Stephen A. think he's gaining by going this hard? Usually when public figures defend an administration this intensely, they want something: access, influence, visibility, some type of favor. But Stephen A. isn't running for office. He's not pushing legislation, and he's definitely not being lined up for a cabinet job. So why fight this hard? Why defend a position even the Secretary of Defense doesn't stand on? The only answer that fits is that Stephen A. is trying to build political capital, trying to brand himself as a conservative voice the administration can point to and say, "See, we have support." But in doing that, he's risking the one thing that made him valuable: his credibility. Now let's break down the moment that started all of this. Senator Mark Kelly, a Navy combat pilot, astronaut, and decorated veteran, made a statement reminding service members of something basic. They aren't required to follow unlawful orders. That's standard military principle, nothing controversial about it, yet Stephen A. turned this into a national debate he wasn't prepared to have. That's literally all Senator Kelly said. Nothing extreme, nothing radical. It's basic military law written straight into the Uniform Code of Military Justice, something every service member learns on day one. Yet Stephen A. twisted that into Kelly telling troops to defy the president, then went on air accusing him of undermining discipline and promoting chaos. But Kelly never said, "Disobey your commander-in-chief." He said, "You are not required to follow unlawful orders." There's a huge difference. One is rebellion, the other is standard procedure. And when active duty and retired military members explained this to Stephen A., instead of listening, he turned up the volume and doubled down again. That's not journalism. That's ego trying to protect itself while the facts are right there. Now let's get to DL Hughley's sharpest point, the comparison that hit Stephen A. the hardest. Hughley didn't just question Stephen A.'s political knowledge, he questioned his character. When he compared Stephen A. to Admiral Alvin Halsey, he painted a picture of two totally different types of men. Admiral Halsey spent 37 years serving this country. He reached 4-star rank and commanded entire regions. And when he believed he was given an unlawful order, he didn't jump on TV shouting or trying to defend the undefendable. He simply resigned. He walked away from power rather than walk away from principle. That's real integrity. Meanwhile, Stephen A. is doing the opposite. He picks volume over substance, loyalty to an administration over loyalty to the facts, political ambition over honesty. And that's why Hughley's comparison cuts so deep. It showed Stephen A. for what he is right now, a man who would rather be loud than right, someone who mistakes aggression for authority and thinks confidence means competence. And this matters way beyond Stephen A.'s personal reputation. These aren't harmless sports arguments. This is military law. This is constitutional responsibility. This is about whether service members understand the difference between a lawful order and an unlawful one, a difference that can literally save lives. We're talking about issues that shape whether a democracy stays stable or falls apart. And when someone with Stephen A.'s massive platform spreads misinformation about something so serious, it confuses the public. It makes people believe military members must obey everything blindly, which is not true. That mindset doesn't protect democracy. It pushes people toward authoritarian thinking. And whether Stephen A. is doing this out of confusion or ambition, he's helping create that culture without realizing the damage. But here's the thing, Stephen A. isn't the whole problem. He's a reflection of a bigger shift inside modern media. Today, being loud and reckless gets more traction than being accurate and careful. Going viral means more than being correct. And it doesn't matter if you're left or right. Both sides have voices chasing attention with dramatic claims designed to stir emotions. We're in a moment where being wildly wrong gets you spotlight, and being quietly right gets ignored. That's the environment Stephen A. is playing into. And it's why his outbursts keep getting amplified. Everyone is chasing clicks now, chasing reactions, chasing controversy, and networks know exactly how to use that. That's why they bring Stephen A. onto political shows, not because he's some deep political thinker, but because he's entertaining. They know he'll say something wild, get defensive, and create a viral moment, and that's exactly what happened on The View. Stephen A. didn't show up to have a real, layered conversation. He showed up ready to defend his pride, and producers knew that energy would explode on camera. That's the media world we're living in, and it's making real conversations almost impossible. But Stephen A's biggest problem isn't his politics, it's that he can't admit when he's wrong. If he had gone on The View and said, "I've heard from military folks, I think I misunderstood Senator Kelly," this entire story would have been over. People respect honesty. People respect someone who can say, "My bad," and move on. But Stephen A's ego won't let him do that. Instead, he doubles down. He gets louder, and he goes after other people's qualifications while lacking those same qualifications himself. That's why DL Hughley's takedown hit so hard. He didn't just attack the argument, he exposed the flaw underneath it. Stephen A hates admitting he's wrong. Now let's talk about credibility. Stephen A is great at what he does when he stays in his lane, sports. When he talks hoops or football, he's entertaining and sharp. But politics isn't sports, and the habits that work in sports debate fall apart in political conversations. Being loud, being stubborn, refusing to back down. That might work on ESPN, but not when the topic is military law or constitutional principles. In sports, being wrong doesn't hurt anybody. If he gets a Cowboys take wrong, life goes on. But when you spread misinformation about military rules, when you argue against veterans who are stating basic facts, when you defend positions that even trained experts disagree with, that has consequences. And one of those consequences is your credibility getting wiped out. DL Hughley didn't just criticize Stephen A. He demolished his political credibility in front of millions. He showed Stephen A as someone who thinks volume equals leadership and confusion equals strength. And the wildest part? Stephen A still doesn't see it. He's still defending the same stance. He's still convinced he's right. That's not confidence, that's delusion. And until he shows some humility, until he stops treating politics like a highlight reel argument on TV, he's going to keep getting embarrassed like this. DL Hughley revealed who Stephen A really is right now, a man chasing political approval so badly that he's willing to risk his own credibility to get it. Don't be a Stephen A. Smith, be an Admiral Hughley. If you think DL Hughley just delivered the most brutal takedown of 2025, hit that like button. If you think Stephen A. needs to stay in his lane and stick to sports, drop a comment. And if you want more breakdowns exposing what's really happening in media and politics, make sure you subscribe because we're just getting started. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.